I went to Japan, drifted for 2 weeks. I bought a car over there. I still own the car over there. I plan on going back. I'm going to explain to you how much my trip cost, how much my next trip should cost, how much money you could save by doing different things differently than I did, like selling the car back, how that works. I spent a lot of time making a very detailed list, so this should be a very comprehensive guide of what it costs to go drifting in Japan, not just the major stuff, but all the little stuff as well, including like how much you spend at the vending machine. So we're going to do all of this in today's current currency exchange. The yen to dollar rate will be right here, and that is what we're going to do it in today. It was actually a little bit better when we went, so all of this was a little bit cheaper in American dollars because our dollar was valued a little bit higher than it is now compared to the yen. But we're just going to do it in today's just for simplicity's sake because we were there for multiple days. Cool. So we're going to jump right into it. We're going to start with like the general trip cost to go to Japan because obviously you have to get there first. So the plane ticket was $600. Now these range from like $600 to $1,000. We got it at a really good time. $600, like $500-600 is about the cheapest you're going to get it. It's cheaper if you're out west, somewhere like near California. Those are usually like in the $700 range. Food on the plane, like general snacks and stuff, is like 20 bucks. Okay, so now the rental car from the airport, we split it up 4 ways because we had 4 people. We had like a small Nissan Note. It was $162 a person. So it was about 3.5 hours north of Tokyo. You pretty much have to take toll roads the entire way there. So tolls are about, on average, I think total, you know, from the trip there, the trip back, and a little bit around Tokyo that we did, was around $100 a person. Gas for the rental car was around $50 a person. We stayed at a hotel about 30 minutes from Ebisu, and that was $45 for the night. So after that first hotel night, the rest of the trip while we were at Ebisu, we stayed at the lodge. Power Vehicles has this lodge, that's where they live. And then there's where I took a shower this morning. It's just glass wall over the stream. It's beautiful. And then this is the lodge itself. And there's tons of rooms with 4 beds per room. So there's 4 of us in a room, and that cost $289 for 8 days. I think it's like $35 a day. And the last hotel we stayed in 2, we stayed in one about an hour from Tokyo. Alright, we made it to the hotel. It's 4 in the morning. And then one in Tokyo right by the airport. The one outside of Tokyo was 55 bucks. The one right by the airport was 40 bucks for the night. So overall, the cost of stay wasn't very expensive. There's actually a cabin you can stay at, which is about 30 minutes north of Ebisu, or like 20 minutes or so, and split it up between people, and it averages out to be about the same cost, if not less, than staying at Power Vehicles. Power Vehicles is just super convenient. It's about a mile from the track, so you're right there in the morning. All right, now let's talk about food costs. Food cost in the morning, we had toast. We eat some toast with jam/peanut butter, which you just buy some peanut butter, so it's like $3 for the whole trip basically, for some peanut butter to put on your toast, or you can have just blank toast, and they have like tea and stuff there. I generally got a coffee out of the vending machine. At the track, the meals are between like $6 to $11 depending on what you get, and it's pretty good food. I mean, everything from spaghetti to ramen to like hamburger curry and burgers with fries and chicken nuggets with fries. They have pretty much everything there at the track. Super affordable, actually good food. I spent about $10 a day at the vending machines because, you know, they're super convenient. You go get a water or a coffee or whatever you want, instead of like going to the store and bringing all that stuff to the track with you like you would in an event here. So after the track, we'd spend between like $10 and $25 a night. 25 was the absolute most we spent. 10 was about the least we spent. I would say on average, if you were to count like maybe like getting a drink at the vending machine or two at the lodge after, I'd say about $20 a night in food. So the total for the whole trip was $480 in food, maybe say $500 just for some random stuff I didn't think of, like some snacks here and there, like candy. But overall, not bad. 500 bucks for 2 weeks. I mean, I would spend that here eating out or more. Okay, so now let's talk about the cost of Ebisu itself. Now this is if you have your own car, buying a car, it's all irrelevant. This is just the cost to go drive at Ebisu. Just like you pay to go to a drift event here, you pay to go to the track there. So, per day, if you just pay per day, for 5 course, which is Curry Land 1, Curry Land 2, which those are both skid pads. You also get North Course, Toge, and Minami. So that's your 5-course pass. That is $82 a day. Now if you don't want to drive Minami, then the total is only $54 a day. And if you want to just drive the skid pads, you have to pay your entry fee just to get into the complex, plus the track fee, which totals out to $32 if you just want to drive Currituck Land 1 and 2. And the Matsuri, because it's technically 2 days, is $135 for the whole Matsuri. So it's a full 2 days plus all night drifting. That's $135. The other option is to get a gold card. A gold card is $902. It lasts 13 months, so it'll last technically 4 Matsuris if you did summer. I don't plan on going for the summers. I'm going back in fall and then planning on going back in spring, so I'll go through 3. So it's $902 and it's $5 a day, Matsuri or not. Anytime you go in, it's $5, so you only pay $5. So the total that the trip would have cost us without the gold card, and this is because I only drove Matsuri 1 day. So of all the other days, I would have just paid for the 4-track course because I didn't drive Minami, and then Matsuri and all that factored in is $541 for the whole trip. Now with the gold card, it was $1,072, but my next trip will only cost me $50 to $60 depending on if I drive 10 or 12 days. If you consider the fact that I plan on going to 3 Matsuris, the overall cost without the gold card, it would be $1,650 if we did it the same way and only drove Minami 1 day. If you drove Minami every day, it'd be like $2,500 instead of $1,600. The total with the gold card is $1,072 for all 3 trips. I think I said the cost wrong earlier. Total with the gold card for this trip was like $952. Okay, now moving on to the car. Obviously, big crucial part. This is where you could save a lot of money. We'll get to that later. So my car is a JZX90 Mark II Tourer V. I had like a fiberglass front lip and rear lip, but the front's broken and I just have been too lazy to put the rear on. But you know, white hood, who cares? Blitz gauges. We've got water temp and boost with the wiring running down into there. It's great. Really crappy steering wheel that I want to get rid of because I just don't like it at all. I want something a little more dished. Same seat Adam has, the Recaro. I call it the party seat. Not sure what they're out of or what they're called, but I call them the party seats. So it's a 1J non-VVTi, so it's twin turbo. We've got obviously the little spice thing for the coolant temp sensor. It's a little pod filter guy. Car ran and drove fine, had some ABS wheels on it and a whip kit that half of it wasn't installed. I put that on later. Dang, it looks so much cooler now. Yeah, it does. I'm so happy that we did that. Overall, really good, clean car. Actually would have been a good one for export before I smashed the rear quarter panel. But I mean, that's what you do in Japan, so it's okay. But yeah, so clean car. I bought that car for $5,400 American. Now tires, another major expense, the second biggest expense. So I ran Kenda KR20s, 235, 45 or 40, 45, 17s. They were $79 each. I went through a total of 12 of those, which was $958. Now you are able to pretty much, I was limiting myself to 1 set of tires a day. I probably could have gone through 2 if I really wanted to, but I kind of conserve myself a little bit, but not much. I mean, that's still doing like 50 to 75 laps a day and usually having enough tire left to just go murder them on Toge, you know, after the end of the day at North Course. Because it's not a sprint, it's more of a marathon. You're kind of driving all day, so you actually do not go through that many tires. It's also due to the fact that the courses are all pretty high speed. You're not just sitting there baking the tires off, like going like 20 miles an hour around the corner with 60 miles an hour wheel speed. You know, tires are generally close to as fast as you're going. That's why you normally see a ton of smoke. And we generally have time to cool down in between each run. And we take care of ourselves in the fact that, you know, we pull off after like 6-8 runs in a row and cool the tires down with water or take a break or whatever. So as long as you're conscious of what you're doing, you can make the tires last quite a long time, which will save you a lot of money. Most of the cars there are going to need front tires. Some might, some don't. It's probably always a good idea. I bought Federal RSRs for the front. Thinking back on it, I could probably use Kendas in the front because it's kind of nice to have the front slip instead of like a grippy compound. The RSRs are R-Comp tire. Those were $117 each, same size, or $235 for the pair. The next thing is gas. Gas is quite expensive over there. You're buying it at the racetrack. Way down there, that little first building is where we get gas. And then like the third building is where we pay for gas. I think it's like 104 or maybe a little bit better octane than that. Generally I'm spending about 60 American dollars a day in gas, just depending on how much I drove each day. So that averaged out to be about 600 bucks for the whole trip because we drove for 10 days. So there's a few things I decided to do to the car just to make it a little bit better. At Up Garage, I bought a set of front wheels because generally, regardless, any of these cars you're getting are going to have 4 wheels on them. So you need at least 2 more wheels to have as just spares unless you want to take your wheels off and mount tires every time. It's nice to be able to mount up 4 new tires and have another set to put on the car in rotation, and just like rotate them out, like new set on, mount these, those set on, mount these, kind of thing. So I just decided to buy 2 fronts and use my old fronts as rears because they're all the same size. So I bought originally some Advans for $180 for the pair with pretty decent tires on them. Not great tires, but they're really good tread. And then I ended up selling those to Adam for what I bought them for. And I bought a set of Graham lights for $235 with tires that were pretty much completely useless. But they were 17 instead of 18s. They were a little bit lower offset and a little bit narrower, whereas the 18s were hitting my control arms and such, and the fenders, and they were just kind of a mess. So it was either get spacers or get different wheels. So I bought those wheels for the front of the car, have my drift spares, good to go there. Also bought a deep dish suede steering wheel, like this cheap drifting knockoff one, and that was $62 United States dollars. They had a larger one. I wish I would have got it. I got a smaller one, something I want to upgrade next trip. But really nice steering wheel for the price, not gonna lie. So that's all I really bought at Up Garage, besides some gifts from my friends, which we'll get into later. For all of you that comment about me sweating in my videos, I live in Florida. It's hot. I'm sorry. Anyway, so the coilovers that were on the car were so seized that I couldn't raise the rear of the car. Thus, it had a ton of rear camber. Now, that is terrible for tire wear, and I would have spent way more money in tires than just buying a used set of coilovers. I want to get some BCs when I go over there next time. Didn't plan to buy a car, didn't think to send some over there. We'll have some for next time. But, needed to buy the coilovers, so I bought some used ones from Power Vehicles for 270 bucks for the set, and I just installed them myself because I just figured it was easier and they didn't have time to do it right then and there. So, it was not a big deal. Threw them on, was able to raise the car up, all good there. I also bought a boost controller from them, which was $72. I bought gear oil from them. I bought Redline Shockproof, which is really expensive gear oil, but it did fix my transmission grinding because the first couple days I was power shifting into second and I caused it to start grinding. They changed the fluid, fixed. So I had them install the boost controller while they were there. They fixed my battery ground, they put a battery tie down on it. There was a big boost leak coming from where someone had capped off the factory recirc valve. They put a recirc valve on it, fixed all of that. They did a rear alignment. They adjusted my handbrake a couple times, and the gear oil change and a few other little labor parts that they did. So the total for all of that labor was $288, which is pretty cheap considering that probably would have been about 5 to 6 hours labor, anywhere here, which would be generally like $500 to $600. So it's about half what it costs over here to do it, and they're doing it at the track, and they would do it literally like that night, like 4:30, track closes, I pull my car in. All right, I'm leaving my car here tonight. They're gonna put a boost controller on it. Hey, can you guys do this? Next morning, here's your keys, car's done. It was awesome. Super great service. You can obviously do all this stuff yourself and just buy the parts from them or buy them from another store, but then you need to have tools and all of that, and I only had minimal tools, and it was just easier to let them do the little stuff like that, and it just worked out better that way because it wasn't much. Okay, so now we're pretty much at the end of the cost. I put in like Misc nonsense for another $300. I originally was going to do $500, but I tried to think of what I spent other money on other than all the stuff I just explained, and I couldn't really think of anything but souvenirs and, like, you know, going to the arcade, which is 30 bucks. So just $300 as a high end. That was just like walking around Tokyo buying a crepe, like just nonsense like that. So that brings the grand total of my trip, my 2-week trip to Japan, to $11,333. Now, that's with me keeping the car. I've got now spare wheels for the car and these parts on the car. I have other parts from the car that I can sell or give away or whatever. I still have them there in the trunk. Now, I quickly want to talk about the cost of my potential next trip, just so you guys get an idea of how much cheaper it's going to be. So if I don't do anything to the car, which the car is perfectly driftable right now, I would be spending $250 in storage because it's $50 a month for me to keep the car there, and you just pay it when you get there to drive it the next time because it's easier for them to keep track of that way. $60 in entry fee if I drive 12 days. $450 in stay, just counting the random hotels to and from the track and the lodge stay. It'd be about $300 for the rental car, gas and tolls all combined. $600 in gas again, maybe $700 on the high end. That's if I drive, 12 days because I'm planning on driving more this time. I might drive less. I don't know. I kind of want to go visit some shops and like, you know, mines, tuning, and a bunch of other cool places around Japan. So maybe I'll drive less and it'll be cheaper than this, but we're just going on the high end if I drove every day. $1,400 in tires, $600 to $1,000 for the plane ticket, and $500 in food. Now that's all I have to spend to go on the next trip. So on the high end, total will be about $3,700 to $4,000 to go back and drive for 2 weeks, because I've already spent the initial investment on the gold card, on the car, on the wheels, and all that. Now, there are some things I want to do to the car for next trip, if possible, if funds allow it. I want to do an angle kit. Now this is going to be between $250 and like $900, depending on what they have available, what they suggest, and you know, what I can get on the car. I want to do a front mount intercooler. My side mount intercooler was heat soaking a lot, like especially on Togay. By the end of the lap, you could feel the car losing power, and not only is that annoying, but it also, you know, can cause reliability issues because you're overheating the intake charge. So that's definitely something that I was kind of holding back on, but I really think I need to do. I also want to do some new handbrake cables. I would guess they'd cost between like 100 and 200 bucks for them brand new. I have no idea. Because mine are definitely stretched, we tried to adjust them and just have them fix the handbrake setup so that I don't have any handbrake issues this time, because that would be really nice. I'd like to do a bucket driver's seat in rail and then just put my seat in the passenger seat. That would not only give me more support in driving, which there's a lot of back and forth on the track, so you get tossed around pretty aggressively, which that would be super helpful to stay planted in the seat, but it would also give whoever's riding passenger a better, more supportive seat, because you see the passengers and they're just like flying all over the place because it's just a stock, like, cloth, very minimal bucket seat. I'd like to get a larger steering wheel. I'll buy another one of the same one if they have the bigger one, which is only 60 bucks, or up to probably 200 bucks if I buy a nice steering wheel. I'm fine with the one that's on the car as long as I can find the bigger version. I found that like 2 days after I bought mine, they had the bigger version in stock. So that's the plan for the steering wheel, and then hopefully we'll be able to get sponsored some BC coilovers to take over there. I'll spec them out custom here, and they'll probably be a drastic improvement on the car over there. So if I do all of that, the total for the whole trip, including the previous cost, would be $5,700. So still almost half of what I spent the first time. So the first time is really your big cost, your big initial investment. The rest of the times you go, it is really affordable. It costs a lot less than driving here. If you consider each day of driving there an event, it would cost you a lot more to go to 12 events here than $5,700, or $3,700 realistically, because you're not including parts. So how can you do it cheaper? All right, so if you bought a cheaper car, you can get like R32s and S13s and a little more beat up cars for less than what I paid. These are becoming harder to find there and for them to pick up, but it is doable. So say you buy a car for $3,500 instead of $5,500. Now I would think this would get you like an R32 with like a welded diff and maybe some coilovers on it, you know, a pretty basic setup, but that will do just fine. And then you sell it back to them. Let's say you didn't mess the car up at all, you get, you know, at the high end 60% back from them. Then your total car investment is only $1,400. So that'd be a savings over my trip of $4,000, because you're selling the car back. But mind you, you're not going to have the car to go back to. You're going to have a car that might break and might give you issues, and you might spend that money back. Now, if you buy this car and let's say it works fine and you don't mod it, you don't buy any of the parts I did, that'd be a savings of $1,040. If you went cheaper on the front tires and just use Kendos, which I would suggest, I'll save you $100. If you don't buy the gold card because you're only planning on going for one trip, hence selling back the car, that'll save you $530 over my trip. If you use the train instead of the rental car, I'm not sure exactly what train tickets cost, but you can take the train almost all the way to the track. I know you can get to the track from the train because a couple of my friends did it while they were in Japan at the same time from Tokyo. So that'd probably save you a couple $100 right there. There is also a thing called the Drifter's Lodge. I didn't know about this until after I got back, but it's right across the street from Ebisu. There's some futons there. There's no shower. I don't think there's anything to cook with, but you can stay there. Ebisu does offer that for people to stay at for free, but it's not meant for long-term stays, so you probably shouldn't go planning to stay your whole 2 weeks there. But it is, if you want to go for a shorter trip, or you're staying just for a few days from Matsuri, I think you could do that, and that would save you, you know, like probably $300 to $400, depending on if you stayed somewhere in Tokyo for the first night or just went straight to the track. So that would bring the total trip cost to just under $5,000 if you were to do it that way and save all the money that I just explained that you could save. So you could do the trip, going there, buying the car, and doing everything for under $5,000. $4,613 is what I have, and that's, you know, that is definitely like best case scenario. That's nothing going wrong. That's, you know, you're not having to buy any parts for the car. That's you getting a car at a good price. That's you not messing up the car. and you selling it back to them. And it would probably be even cheaper than that if you stayed for less time. That's for 2 full weeks. Even if you total the car, they will generally buy the car back for parts, because they can take the engine, trans, coilovers, wheels, seats, tires, whatever out of it. So that's even an option. All of this info is listed on their page, which I will link right here. And below, this literally explains everything that I've told you pretty much, except for like my specific cost and cost of other stuff. But they have a very detailed list of the cost of entry, cars, what cars you get for certain price ranges, everything. Also, they do offer a resale program. So like, let's say I total my car, instead of having to buy a whole new car, I can pay them on the low end like 2,700 bucks, on the high end, I don't know, probably like 3-4 grand, for them to take all my parts, put them in a new shell. So they'll buy a shell, swap all the parts over, and then I'll have basically a new car again. So that's a pretty cool option, because you know, when you're putting these parts on, like if I spend another 2 grand in this car to make it better, it would suck for that all to go down the drain if I like crashed the car and totaled it. So that's a really cool package they offer, and they can do it like, I believe, in the off season. So like I could, if I had done that, if I totaled the car, I could have them be reshelling it right now and have a car ready to go when I got back. I think Jake did that, my buddy Jake I met from Australia. So really cool setup. They pretty much offer everything you could imagine. Just a couple little tidbits. So for tires, you buy the tires from them. Basically, you're paying for all your parts and your labor and stuff at the end of your trip. They just basically make a tab for you. You can go check on your tab at any time and see how much you're bringing up, because sometimes it does make it a little bit easy to spend a little too much money and not realize, you know, just lose track of how much money you're spending. But you go, you say, you go up to the guys that are at the door, you grab tires from them, you sign your name saying that you picked up 2, 4, however many tires, then you go mount them yourself. You don't pay to use the tire machines. It's all included in the Power Vehicles package. Parking up in kind of like the prime area around the tire machine and stuff is all included, with the fact that you bought a car from Power Vehicles. There are some people selling cars that aren't through Power Vehicles but have Power Vehicles support, but then you have to pay a premium of about, I think, like 900 American dollars to have the Power Vehicle support of the shop and the parts and the tire machine and the tires and all of that, because it is a business at the end of the day. So again, all this information is listed on their website. If you are into drifting and you are looking to better your skill and become a more competent driver, and if you just love driving, I think this is a very, very, very worthwhile trip. I mean, if you think about how much it costs to go to an event here, you're going to go through more tires per lap. You're going to be running, generally, at least for me, on way less fun courses. You got to spend all my money on the car to even be able to tandem. There, all the cars are pretty evenly matched, because nobody crazily modifies them or anything like that. So the tandems are always so good, because you're not going in a 300 horsepower 350Z against like a 600 horsepower LSS chassis against like a KA240. You know, it's all very similar cars, very intense, very difficult tracks, very fun tracks. I mean, you literally get to drive to the point of being physically exhausted from driving. I'm so tired. I never realized you could get physically exhausted from drifting so much, and I don't think I've ever been able to do that anywhere in my life before. So I think if you were to look at it from a cost per lap perspective, the value is definitely there, especially if you're selling the car back and stuff. Or for me, for my second trip, you know, the cost per lap there is going to be a lot cheaper than my cost per lap of drifting here. And in my opinion, a good amount more fun, because it's, you know, the way gnarlier tracks in the mountains of Japan. It's just beautiful. It's overall a really good trip. And I know it sounds like a lot of money. I didn't even want to spend the like 2 to 3 grand to just go over there and hang out and do some laps in Adam's car. Alright, so the plan was to come here and drive Adam's car and get a feel for it, maybe come back and buy a car. And Aaron's like, you're going to buy a car.
Nope.
And now I'm here, nope. And damn it.
Take all your money and dump it in a fire. It's over.
All my money is
You're
gone.
You're an Ebisu.
Every bit of money that I've saved up over the last like while is gone, because this is amazing. This is like drift heaven in a nutshell.
That's why it's called drift heaven.
Before I went, because I was like, oh, it's not worth it. Like 3 grand, I can buy like heads and a cam and an intake for my Corvette. Like, that's way more worth it. Absolutely wrong. I mean, absolutely wrong. I would almost rather have a drift car in Japan that I drive 2 times a year than a drift car here, because I drive more in each time over there than I have here in years. So it's a very worthwhile trip. I think if you can do it, or if you're considering, you know, like buying a missile car, just if you're considering spending your money on something material, think about going to Japan if you're really into drifting, because it is absolutely worth it. You will come back a changed person. It'll blow your mind, and you'll have a lot of fun. So Anyway, finally got around to making this video. I just wanted to tell you guys that if you have any other questions, let me know below. I'll try to respond to as many questions as I can, or if there's a lot of the same one, I'll maybe answer it in another video. But I feel like I tried to cover almost everything. So that's it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for supporting this Japan trip. Thank you for supporting me into the ability to hopefully go back in November. Thank you guys for everything you do. And let me know what you thought. So anyway, that's it. Goodbye, guys.